Good evening and welcome to the Monday, December 11th, 2023 open session meeting for the Kent County Public Schools Board of Education. The first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. The administration is recommending the approval of this agenda. Do we have a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion.
Well, Francois was going to.
I have a change for the agenda. Under number 4, consent agenda, item B, approval of minutes for November 27th. I did not attend that meeting, and so I was planning on abstaining from that vote. So I would like to have that item removed from the consent agenda.
Would you like to make that motion?
I would like to make that motion.
Okay. Ms. Sullivan has the motion to have item B in the consent agenda pull out of consent agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rhodes has the second.
I have a question. I remember the discussion about it. Did we decide we were going to do the consent agenda?
Yeah, we're going to start slow.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Any additional comments or questions? I'll just make a comment. What will happen is then when we go back, I will call for the vote for the consent agenda with the removal because the agenda was changed, and then I'll follow that right up with the looking for a motion to approve the agenda for that evening, and then we'll go right back into the normal agenda after that. Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. If there are no further comments or questions, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is to move into closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members of this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, Adam Costas, legal counsel, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, will move into closed session under general provisions article 3-305B. The meeting will be closed in section 1 to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affects one or more individuals. The reason for closed session is public discussion of this section. Public discussion of applicants' and employee names and personal information could discourage people from working for the board and contain sensitive personal and biographical information. Personnel information is protected from disclosure under the MPIA. Then also section 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. The reason to have this in closed session is the substance of discussion is protected by attorney-client privilege. With all of that being said, the administration is recommending approval to move into closed session. Do we have a motion to do so?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Dorsey has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. McGee has the second. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. We will move into closed session and be back in this room, back in open session at approximately 6:30 p.m. everyone. Welcome to the December 11th, 2023 Kent County Public School Board of Education open session. We're reopening the open session. The first item on the agenda is to report on the closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, Adam Constas, legal counsel, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, met in closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B. Section 1 was to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more of these specific individuals. And the reason to do that was that public discussion of applicants and employee names and personal information could discourage people from working for the board and contain sensitive, personal, and biographical information. Personnel information is protected from disclosure under the MPIA, as well as Section 7 to consult with legal counsel to obtain legal advice. The reason for closed session is substance of discussion is protected by attorney-client privilege. This session was for information and discussion purposes only. No action was taken. Personnel actions will be voted upon by this board in Section 4 of the consent agenda this evening. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Messick, could you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consent agenda. However, prior to going into closed session, there was a change in the agenda. Under consent agenda 4B, approval of minutes of the November 27, 2023 open session meeting. Those minutes were pulled out and will be voted upon after the consent agenda vote by this board. So before we do that, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the request to pull out 4B. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. McGee. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the November 27th, 2023 open session meeting. The administration is recommending approval of these minutes as presented. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Rhodes. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any recusals, abstentions?
Was you going to abstain?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were voting on the 6th.
No, the 27th.
Oh, I apologize. I made the motion, and I should not have made the motion.
Got it.
I misheard.
So there's no vote, so the motion will die. Correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yes. Very good.
Redo, yeah.
Redo. So we're looking for a motion to approve the minutes for the November 27th, 2023 open session meeting. Do we have a motion?
I make that motion.
Ms. McGee has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rhodes has the second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I abstain from the vote.
We have ayes. We have one abstention. Ms. Messick?
Aye.
We have an aye there as well. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. We did. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Francois, you're throwing me here. Sorry about that.
So sorry, Joe.
Sorry, guys. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public participation. Ms. Gale, do we have any comments or participants? Okay, we do have a second session for public participation later in the meeting, so if anyone feels inclined to be speaking with us, please do so at that time. Dr. Couch, we will move into the superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guest, members of the board. I just have about 7 things I need to report on. Superintendents received invitations to attend a meet and greet for the interim state superintendent, Dr. Carrie Wright, at MSDE on December the 18th. I know it's a busy month, but I do plan to attend the meet and greet. Tomorrow evening, I will be attending the next Makerspace discussion that Washington College has been organizing over the last few months. They are looking to apply for a grant to renovate the old Dixon Valve building that was given to them, and they're looking to renovate it into a makerspace. This week, the results from the Maryland School Report Card will be released. The State Board of Education stated that the SY 22-23 report card data will return to the methodology outlined in the original Maryland ESSA Act, which is Every Student Succeeds Act. The biggest change to this year's report card will be the reinstatement of the chronic absenteeism data. As you'll recall, that was suspended during the pandemic because of all of the absences that we had or that we noted with our students, so that was reinstated. This year, included with those data, they will be including the 8th grade social studies data, which is the first year that will be reported in the report card. And I have just a few stats to report. According to MSDE, most schools, 63%, received the same star rating as the previous year. They also noted that of those schools that changed rating, only 8.4% saw an increase of 1 star, and more than 3 times as many, 28%, saw a decrease of 1 star. So one of the things that the State Board of Ed emphasized is you'll note that the chronic absenteeism data is likely to have contributed to some of the schools moving down a star. So we'll have that information later this week. We are also tracking our data from the Orton Gillingham innovation that was implemented in our schools, and we're planning on sharing a presentation and preliminary data at the February board meeting. I think you'll be, and I know that Dr. Keene is working with her staff, and they're going to have a nice PowerPoint to present, so it should be interesting. Last week, we received word that the educational specifications for the middle school were approved, and they only requested a few clarifying questions to us that we had to respond. That's due this week, so we'll submit that. The good news, however, is that MSDE has essentially approved the ed specs that we submitted almost 6 months ago, a long time. It's been sitting on their desk, I guess, so that was nice to know that it got approved. The KCMS feasibility study has also been completed. I provided you with the hard copy, and we've submitted that to the IAC and MSDE. And finally, just with regard to the middle school, we were also notified that the IAC approved design funds for moving forward for KCMS project. And as you know, we're asking for the legislature to increase their participation of this project. So the good news is we've got the money from the IAC. The bad news is we have to wait and see what the state participation will be for that project.
What about the Maryland Stadium Authority contribution?
Yeah, we met with the Stadium Authority. They came to the middle school. Dr. Lever and I met with them, and Mr. Buckle met with them. The good news about the Stadium Authority is that they will provide us with additional funding, and they will provide the project manager for the project oversight, and they actually put the project out to bid. So they'll save a great deal of money for the school system, and they provide additional oversight for the project. So it's really a good deal for us with the Stadium Authority. Special education is in the process of preparing for their comprehensive audit. I know that Dr. Keene's real excited about this. Not really. Included in the audit will be a review of the IEPs, services to students and families, and included also in the audit will be teacher observations, interviews with parents and staff. Typically, these audits are done every 3 to 5 years, and I guess it's our turn now. So we're waiting to see what happens with that. I received the October, November monthly enrollment reports, and I'm happy to report that we received 10 new students, 6 at Galena. We lost 2 at Garnett. We gained 2 at Rock Hall Elementary School. We gained 1 at Kent County Middle School and 3 at Kent County High School. And finally, I know it's a busy time of the year, but I just wanted to wish everyone a nice holiday break and an opportunity to enjoy your family and friends, and look forward to some rest and relaxation for sure as we, I guess, finish out the semester. It's hard to believe. First semester is already behind us, or close to being behind us. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Couch, appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is the holiday card for 2023.
Okay, as we do every year, we move it around from school to school or level to level in terms of the middle school, the high school, and the elementary schools to design a holiday card. And this year, it was the high school's turn to submit designs for the holiday card, and I'm happy to announce that the holiday card design was completed by Emma Morris. And so, before I call her up and we acknowledge her and recognize her, I just wanted to let you know that Emma is in the broadcasting pathway. She's the first female football play-by-play analyst for WKHS 90.5. She's president of FFA, member of the National Honor Society, National Art Honor Society, Interact, SGA, varsity volleyball, and lacrosse, and she's planning on attending a 4-year university to pursue a degree in sports journalism. So we're very proud to recognize Emma, and this is her design. So this is her certificate of recognition for designing the
As a former winner, do you want to get that
Kent County
photo?
Public Schools. So let's put her in the middle. How's that? Oh, yeah.
There we go. Everybody look at me. 1, 2, 3.
I would note that we send this card out to all of our partners that partner with the school system. We send it to all of the other 23 jurisdictions and friends of KCPS, and so we'll also send one to Emma and her family as well.
Very cool.
So
Congratulations.
she will get a lot of recognition for this really beautiful card.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, we'll move on to the Golden Anchor Award. Mr. Hushin, looks like you're ready to roll. So,
Thank you, President
Please.
Skett, school board members, Dr. Couch. Tonight, I am here to honor 2 KCPS employees with the December Golden Anchor Award. To honor our first winner, I call up Kent County Middle School Principal, Mr. Mark Buckle.
Good. I just asked him if you printed this out for me. Good evening, everyone.
good evening.
So tonight, we want to honor Ms. Foster. Ms. Foster came in beginning of the school year as a long-term sub. As most of you probably know, she's been with the middle school for a number of years. She's a retired educator. We started out the year short an ELA person. She graciously agreed to step up to do this. Faithfully showed up every day. Originally, I believe she signed up for 2 weeks. We had a person we thought was going to come in, and then that person did not decide to take the position with us, and 2 weeks became multiple months, and Her last day was the 28th of November, I think. 29th was when we got our new
She probably
full-time
knows the date.
ELA person. Without complaint, she showed up every day. She did fabulous.
job.
Took care of our students, and, she's truly dedicated, and she really is a model for the younger teachers that were in the building. So we can't thank her enough. Ms. Melvin and myself truly appreciate everything you've done for us. Thank you.
We're fine right here. That's fine. Sit in your lap.
Congratulations. Mr. Hushin?
All right, and our next honoree thinks that she is here to see somebody else receive an award and to share that nomination with you tonight. I call up Rock Hall Elementary School Principal Jillian Spiro.
Good evening. Tonight, we are honoring with our Golden Anchor Award Abby Porche, who thinks she's here to see Dr. Couch win an award. And I'm going to start by reading her nomination, which was from a parent, and then I have a couple of words to add. Ms. Porche dedicates herself to the children that need the most help. Wow. The littlest ones that can't speak for themselves, she teaches them to speak. The ones that struggle to do normal, everyday tasks, she teaches them how to be self-sufficient. The ones that have big feelings and struggle to regulate, she teaches them how to stretch and breathe. All the while, she is teaching them academics like the ABCs, counting, the environment, and much more. She is patient, and kind, and has been just the angel our son needs to start his Kent County Public School journey, and this nomination came from Laura Coleman. I want to add, if you are not familiar with Abby's role, Abby is a special education teacher in our early childhood department. She works specifically with our 3-year-olds who, to qualify for the program, have a IEP or IFSP. I have seen Abby have the gamut of abilities, and you will never, ever, ever hear her say she can't or they can't. She is their biggest advocate. She is the parents' biggest advocate, and she truly believes in them. Every single day, she is on the floor modeling with them. If you come into my cafeteria, there's a tiny little table with 6 little chairs, and they eat family style. And when I say Abby teaches them everything, it is to be independent. If you close a lunchbox for them, she is going to say, no. That is their task. They need to learn how to close their lunchbox. But to see the progress, every day we've said it must be so exhausting, but her car is in the parking lot long after other staff members' cars are in the parking lot. And she knows that I, every day, thank her for the work she does. She's a big part of our special ed team. Above just her 5 students, she helps them transition into their general ed classrooms because she believes that they can, and she truly makes it happen for them. And I am so grateful for her knowledge, her expertise. Coming from secondary, I learned a lot from April and Abby about early childhood, and I feel like I've learned from the best. So to honor you tonight, thank you for everything you do. We recognize you and we appreciate you.
They over this way,
Yes, please.
Congratulations. Okay, we're going to move into the board discussion. Ms. Messick, we'll start down with you,
Whoa.
if you'd like.
That's fine.
That was kind of fast, sorry.
It's all right. Good evening, everybody. There's a lot of faces tonight. I just want to begin my discussion by saying something a little bit about the test scores. As the board continues to look at the test scores, and I feel like our community worries or has opinions, I want to offer a student's perspective. Personally, I've never tested well when it came to standardized testing. I was even rejected from the STEM Academy in middle school during my 7th grade year because of my test scores. I got in 8th grade, don't worry guys. However, I'm a straight A student, and I've been academically recognized with many awards and nominations. I'm graduating high school with a 4.3 GPA and full year of college classes. I'm 3rd in my class, but my SAT scores were lower than I would have liked them to be. Standardized tests have never represented me as a student well, and I'm confident I'm not alone in this. Many students have testing anxiety, lack of motivation, frustrations, and sometimes even just test on a bad day. I just want to remind the community and the board that improvements and growth are occurring in each school every single day. And if you're looking for an increase in test scores, I'm sorry to say that my test scores did not contribute to that goal. These numbers are kind of just numbers to me, and I'm really proud of our community. So I just wanted to begin by saying that.
I just want to say that is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, I'm really proud of us, and our test scores are not the best, but they're great. We're a really great school and great community, and I'm really, really happy that I get to have an education here. So, here is my calendar events as I move on from that. NGS begins scholarship season with a workshop tomorrow featuring the Midshore Community Foundation president, which is really exciting. The middle school has begun its after-school tutoring program every Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30. Students should definitely check that out. Check out Galena's Judy Center calendar for a lot of fun events and lots of different things for families. The Rock Hall Elementary School Winter Concert will feature 2 performances on Wednesday, December 13th. There will be a performance at 9:30 for grandparents and friends, followed by a performance at 2 for parents and guardians. At 6 o'clock that Wednesday as well, the high school is hosting its 15th annual Season Sensations Dinner and Concert. The 6th annual Sensory Holiday Party will be held that night as well at 5 to 7 in the Media Center at the middle school. The middle school's winter concert is set for 6 p.m. on Thursday, so we have a really busy week. Galena is hosting a Winter Staff Appreciation Week and is accepting donations. And the high school and the middle school have winter holiday spirit weeks starting this week into next week. The middle school is also hosting a math and magic show night on the 20th. Galena is hosting its Jingle Bells Fun Run on the 20th. Please go sponsor a student. Thursday, December 1st is an asynchronous day for all students, and winter break begins the 22nd. I want to wish everybody a happy holiday as well. So.
Thank you, Ms. Messick, appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Dorsey?
Yes. I would like to start out by just wishing everybody a happy, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you refer to it, and that you'll all be blessed and be able to spend time with family and love on one another, because we all need it. I would like to also speak about how important it is that we all work together as far as what's needed as far as in King County in the schools, that we all work together as a community, teachers, staff. I've said this before. I see that sometimes we have a tendency of pointing fingers and acting as if that's going to solve a problem, but it's not. And really, when you do that, you're not contributing to anything to better Kent County. But all you're doing is either making us look bad but you're certainly not doing anything to contribute to the help. We need people to get in there and have a heart and really want to help. It's easy to point a finger. It's easy to say what someone else should do, but it's work to get in there and be willing to do it yourself, or really willing to find out what the problem is so that we could actually get the problem solved. Because if you were interested in that, we would know that pointing fingers is not going to do it. People have been pointing fingers and needing scapegoats for years, and it's not working. But I'm just hoping that someone will take my advice, and we will see how that coming together and working on one accord, you can get the job done that way. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Dorsey. Ms. McGee?
I want to publicly acknowledge and thank Washington College for this amazing new program they've just launched that beginning in the 24-25 school year, if you guys aren't aware of it, they're awarding 6 full 4-year scholarships, 3 to Kent County High School. We're going to, just our school will get 3. Queen Anne's, the 2 high schools in Queen Anne's have to share the 3. And I think the course of the 4 years, it's worth $268,000. And the trade-off is that after you've completed it, you have to agree to work in a school that's got 50% more of poverty, which all of our school, that would qualify for alls.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was something that just came out last week, and I think that is just amazing. So I want to publicly thank them, and I hope that our students take advantage of that and will help us grow our own, our own students come back to teach. The other thing is I want to just, again, I want to say to Maddie, that was brave of what you said, and that was just amazing. And I want to share one other little thing. One day, Maddie and I were on a school bus going to a field hockey game, and we were talking about school stuff and class ranking. And I think I'm correct when I remember your quote was, you were sorry that you were getting ready to graduate because the past 4 years had been such great 4 years for you. So I'm glad that here's a student who embraced everything Kent County Public Schools had for them. So thank you very much for that. And this morning I was out at the community center, and 19 members of the Interact Club. And Ms. Nab, who is their advisor, said there were a lot of new 9th and 10th graders she'd never met before that were involved. So kudos to them. And I was talking to one of the Lions, they were putting together the Christmas baskets, and I was talking to one of the Lions Club members, and he says our high school kids, and that included also 10 Chestertown Christian Academy students, are lifesavers because, as he said, the Lions, members of the Lions Club are getting a little older, and they can't do a lot of that lifting and packing and all that, and that program would not be as would not be able to be done without our high school kids. So I want to give a shout out to our high school kids too. And what Ms. Dorsey said, wishing everybody a happy holiday.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. Mr. Rhodes?
Thank you, that was wonderful. What I want to say is happy holidays also. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a great school system, and I know our kids are learning. It's just a wonderful experience to be involved with this. A couple days ago, I went to the Galena Christmas show at the high school. It was just wonderful, and I've never seen the auditorium there as full as it was. I mean, I'm guessing it was 90% full, maybe a little less than that. It was packed. I saw the Garnett show, which was wonderful. They had a great event. That was packed also, and the end they had the drums or the buckets with the lights. It was just really fabulous. The girls' varsity basketball team is doing well. I know they have a game tonight, and the boys won last week down in St. Michael's. I'm really happy for how they're doing, and just have a great holiday, and don't forget to go to the basketball game this Thursday. We play Queen Anne's. Tomorrow we play Dorchester, so it'd be nice to have a great turnout. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Ms. Sullivan?
First, I wanted to say thank you to the Kent County High School Culinary Arts for our dinner this evening, which was wonderful. And also, I agree with what Trish said, Maddie. I thought it was very brave of you to speak up, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure all the students appreciate it as well. I attended my first MABE Legislative Committee meeting representing Kent County this month. The Legislative Committee holds monthly meetings to guide the association's lobbying activities in Annapolis and invites policy and legislative leaders as guest speakers to exchange ideas. MABE will be rolling out additional voter advocacy tools for the 2024 legislative session, and their top priorities for 2024 include support for governance authority for local boards of education to adopt education policies and school system budgets reflecting local priorities and resources, support for full state funding for Maryland's outstanding public schools, support for increased state funding for school construction and renovation projects, and support for sustained and increased local government investments in education. I will keep the board posted on information shared from any future legislative committee meetings that I attend. I'll also be representing Kent County on the MABE Budget Committee. I've been unable to attend any budget meetings so far, but I'll keep you posted on that as well. And like everyone here, I'm looking forward to all of the wonderful holiday events that are taking place in our schools right now, and I'm going to do my best to attend as many as possible. I'm especially looking forward to attending the Seasonal Sensations event this Wednesday at the high school. There are still some tickets available, from what I understand, for the KCMS Math and Magic Holiday Family Show on December 20th. Tickets are free, but reservations are requested by going to kcmsevents.org. And the next CAC meeting will be held on January 22nd. And I'd like to finish with, as we come to the end of 2023, I just want to thank all of our teachers, staff, and administrators for everything you're doing for our kids. I know you don't hear it enough, but you are truly making a difference. As I've mentioned before, this was a transition year for my kids, and they have had so many opportunities to explore in middle school and high school, and it has been such a pleasure to watch them grow and build new friendships and communities in those places, and I'm so very grateful to all of you. I wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. So this is the point of the night when there's really not much more to say, but I have a couple things I'd like to add. Just to reiterate, the two Christmas or holiday programs last week at the high school for the elementary schools were just incredible. That is a precursor for an amazing week this week with Seasonal Sensations. The middle school has their program Thursday night. I believe Rock Hall is Wednesday. There's a couple of times there. If you have a chance to be able to go and watch the work that's been put in, and the students, and the joy, and the laughter, and the dancing, and the wiggling, and all that fun stuff. It really is a joy, and it's a really special time of year. Now, that means that everyone's exhausted by the time December 22nd comes. So with that being said, I just absolutely wish that everyone, students, parents, community members, staff, administrators, board members, everyone just take some time to rest, enjoy the holidays with your loved ones or those special people in your lives. Because it's due, it's crazy, and I just really appreciate everything that everyone does for our schools on a day-to-day basis. So continue to support, do the best. Maddie, again, I would be remiss also not to just give you a huge shout out for your comments. Some of us still have kids in, and some of us has kids that have graduated, and they would echo the same comments, and it's just nice to see your journey and you being here. It's a real joy to have you up here, so thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so we will move on. We have exciting things to come yet in the meeting. The next section is Education Services, and first up is Kent Cultural Alliance donation.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, members of the board.
Good evening.
This evening, we'd like to bring to you a very generous donation. I have a great team behind me, John and Stephanie, and I am just so excited. As you know, the Kent Cultural Alliance always goes above and beyond to support our school system. And tonight, we'd like to share with you an incredibly generous donation beyond $15,000, well beyond that, that basically is going to bring to our students and put at their fingertips an incredible amount of instruments. I was reading the bells and all different drums and all different needs that are that are needs in our school that are going to be met through this special grant. So Jody Bortz unfortunately could not be here tonight, but I will tell you, she was instrumental in helping to pull this together. This was a collaboration with Jody, John, and Stephanie, and I'm going to let John just say a few words, because he likes to talk.
Is that true, John?
What are you saying? Good evening, I'm John Schratweiser, I'm the director of the Kent Cultural Alliance, and Maddie, in 1987, I scored 1030 on my SATs. Still here. Got a great education after that, doing a lot of good things, I hope. The arts are near and dear to the heart of the Kent Cultural Alliance, as they have been for its nearly 50 years since its inception by Vince Raymond, and it's under its leadership by Leslie Prince Raymond. The engagement in our public schools has been a top priority for us for that entire time. We are fortunate in that there is additional funding coming from the state level, but also that we have been able to create such a great relationship with our fine arts teachers at all of our schools. And at our August PD Day, the question came up, we have, Jody, I think, said, I think the tuba was from probably 86, like when I was in high school.
Probably.
And, tubas aren't meant to last forever. And that's just one example. A tuba also costs like $7,000. We want to be sure that the students of Kent County Public Schools get access to quality arts education. It is at the Maryland state level, it is part of the definition of a full, rounded education. We don't ever want to see that slip. We will do everything that we can. We follow in the great footsteps of Tom McHugh and all of the work that he did in Arts in Motion. We'll do our best, but I want you to know that we want to be here as a partner. We want to do this together with you. We're not going to point fingers about why there isn't money in the arts budget. We're going to say, okay, fine, how can we step up? We will step up. We have a very generous community, but we can't do it all, so we're here to do this as a partner with you. We want to thank you for that opportunity. It was a joy to see pictures that Jody had sent me of the new marching band drum things that were walking down the street at the Chestertown Holiday Parade, and I've seen those wonderful bucket drum lights. We bought those like 3 years ago from another grant. We will do whatever we can for these teachers in our fine arts departments, but we just want to make sure that you've got our back as well, and that we continue to focus on arts education as an important part of a quality education here in Kent County. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, and at this point, we will take any questions. I do want to thank Stephanie for coming forward, as well as Noelle, who is in the audience, Noelle Morris, and Lori Armstrong in the back. They have all been incredibly involved with the arts. Like I said, Jody couldn't be here today, but it's a phenomenally talented team, and they make our students really help them shine. So I do hope you get out to the programs and get to see it for yourself.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, this is an action item.
Actually, can I
Please.
just ask a question?
Go right ahead.
How was the itemized list, how did that get put together? Were the fine arts teachers asked what their greatest needs were?
The fine arts teachers actually were able to work based on the needs of the students in the individual schools.
Okay.
So there are more needs beyond this.
Oh, yeah,
But they
sure.
prioritized, and based on what this particular donation, these are the items that were identified as sort of top priority.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, because I know when we went through our budget this past year, practically line item by line item, sadly, these are the kinds of things that probably first got taken off the list. So it's just really wonderful that Kent Cultural Alliance is helping us out like that.
And I also want to say that whenever I speak to the commissioners, I say the same thing. So it goes all the way around.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in this in my heart, and we'll take it all the way to the top. I say it in Annapolis, and I'll say it in Washington, D.C. if I need to, too.
Yeah, I just want to say this is an incredibly big and generous donation, and won't be forgotten for a very long time, so thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add too as well, the partnership, just, it's huge, and I just appreciate it so much. The social media behind it, the print behind it, the partnership that, obviously, there's a partnership we can see here, but you see it everywhere. And I just love that there's this kind of connection, and it just weaves in and out, you know, like I said, through social media, through print, and it's just really spectacular to see these creations and all of this work that's being done in the community helping. So thank you, everyone involved in this space. It's pretty incredible. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, this is an action item. The administration is recommending approval and acceptance of the donation from the Kent Cultural Alliance. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Dorsey. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Okay, we're next going to move into the Kent County Health Department request.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, we had a request, or at least it came through the Student Services Department, that the Kent County Health Department requested to present an introduction to their CAP program and other on-campus resources regarding safe sex education that could be made available to high school students. So they're here tonight to do a presentation and take questions and hopefully provide answers to the board. And so I'll just leave it at that and let them complete their presentation. So we can walk you through. If you, the keyboard slides out and then you can just scroll it.
And then just the, like, arrow over?
Yes, the arrows.
All right, that's perfect.
Perfect.
My name is Ashley Maniata. I'm the clinical nurse supervisor at the Kent County Health Department. So thank you so much for meeting with us and allowing us to present. This is,
And I'm Tracy Waters, the Director of Nursing for the Kent County Health Department.
Okay. And like
And
Mr.
we'd be remiss without introducing Mr. Webb.
Bill Webb.
You're there, so.
Bill Webb, Health Officer, Kent County Health Department. I'm here to support my.
Very good.
Welcome.
All right, thank you. So, like Ms. Dorsey said, we're just trying to help the community. It takes a village, so we're here with our recommendation. We'll go into this. So, the Kent County Health Department is recommending a condom availability program in the Kent County schools. So, how did this even come about? So, back in the spring, the Kent County Health Department attended a mental health event at the high school. So during that event, myself, including several of my other nurses, interacted with the students at the high school. While we were there talking with them, we kind of talked about what barriers are they facing to have access to sexually transmitted infection education or condoms just alone. So a lot of the barriers that they had mentioned were like, I'm a full-time student, I don't have the money for it. Another one was, I don't have a vehicle, there's not public transportation around here. Another one is, we're in a rural community. In Baltimore, there's a Walgreens on every corner. We don't have that around here. And another one is a stigma. I don't want to walk into a Walgreens and then have someone see me and then tell my guardian, tell my, my parent, why I'm in here, or just to see another student. It's just a stigma around it. So that's how this whole presentation came about. So, young people in the United States remarkably have the highest sexually transmitted disease, new HIV infection, and unintended pregnancies globally. So although condom use is one of the most effective methods to preventing these outcomes, condom use among teens has declined over the last decade. So just to put a spotlight on STI infections, STI infections can also lead to long-term health consequences like infertility, an increased risk of HIV transmission, and with syphilis, serious illnesses, and even death among infants. So only 9% of sexually active high school students use a condom and some type of birth control method when they last had sex, so only 9%. They usually will use some type of birth control because that's now easily accessible versus a condom. So it's very, very low. So this map is just a reference. The state of Maryland is in the red. It's the south region. This is just going to help for my slides moving forward. I just kind of wanted you to understand that. Also, in 2021, the Maryland Department of Health, their computers were compromised. So a lot of this data is from 2020. The trends that are, when we're moving forward, you'll see they're all increasing. So actually the number's higher than what I'm reporting. I just wanted to give you a heads up. So this rate is for the U.S., or for that map again, so for the South. Once again, it is rating the highest, but all the trends in all the regions are all trending upward. So this increases by 3.6%. So of course, we are here to present to the Board of Education. So I wanted to put a slide in based on age. So I just need to flip this. So among women, those with the age of 20 to 24 rate the highest. The next is ages 15 to 19 for chlamydia rates, cases. And then for the males, 15 to 19 rate third. But still, I mean, they're right up in there. So where does Maryland stack with all this? So once again, these are from 2020. The rates have gone up. But for chlamydia cases in the state of Maryland, 32,398. Gonorrhea we're going to go over next, but still here, 12,000 cases are reported, of new cases reported in the state of Maryland. Chlamydia and gonorrhea are often asymptomatic, meaning there are usually no signs, symptoms. People don't know they have it, they don't know they're spreading it, they're unaware. So once again, that's why we have some high rates here. So how do we prevent, how do we treat? By providing ground support, promoting treatment and best practice, monitoring the STI trends, and also turning that data into action. So with that, we're using this data, we're looking at these trends. If we can just put this one little thing into play, hopefully that is the support on the ground to help reduce the STI rates in Kent County and in Maryland. So here, kind of jumping backwards, here is the rate for gonorrhea. Once again, the South, our region, we are at one of the highest. And again, by age range, because we are, requesting this for the Board of Education, we have that 15 to 19 age range. Once again, women, for females, the ages of 15 and 19 is coming in second. So the next STI is syphilis. The rate for this, once again, is also increasing. From 2016 to 2020, the rate rose in Maryland 69%. So also in syphilis, the rate of syphilis is more, has increased more on the male than female, as you can see in this next graph. And once again, the ages between 15 and 19 are represented. It is a lower rate, but still, it's prevalent. So once again, primary and secondary syphilis are the most infectious stages of syphilis. It rose 50% in the U.S., and in Maryland alone was 69%. Congenital syphilis, this is during pregnancy. In the United States, up 235%. In the state of Maryland, it's up 102%. And once again, this is all old data just because of that hack. So next is HIV. So this is the state of Maryland. I'm just flipping this. It is estimated that an additional 9% of people living with HIV in the state of Maryland are actually still undiagnosed. So kind of putting this number into concept. Of those 751 HIV diagnoses in 2022, 32% were among the ages of 20 to 29. Now the next, I kind of want you guys to just to hear a couple of times. There are 751 people aged 13 plus with the diagnosis of HIV infections in the state of Maryland in 2022. The youngest of 13. I mean, that's a middle school student. It's hard to hear, okay? At the end of 2022, there will be at least 31,616 people of the ages, once again, 13 plus, living with diagnosed HIV in the state of Maryland. Among people living with HIV in the state of Maryland, it is estimated that 90% have been diagnosed while there's still an estimated 32,000 people that are undiagnosed in the state of Maryland. So this breaks down several things. So 1 in 5 people in the United States have some type of an STI. Almost half of those new STI among the country are between the ages of 15 and 24. And usually the total cost, once again, this is a guesstimate, is around $16 billion of medical cost to help treat, prevent, that goes into STIs. This breaks this down by actually specific STIs. For chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, it's $1.1 billion. And then a part of that $1.1 billion, you can see we're youth, once again, 15 to 24, it's 26% of that total cost is from them. But it also breaks down all the other common STIs that we see, especially at the health department. It's a lot of money right there that we can hopefully prevent, reduce with just adding access to condoms. So the next is teenage pregnancy rate in the United States. This is actually great news. It's actually been trending down for the last decade, which is fantastic. The reason that they're saying that this has actually been decreasing over the last decade is more teens are abstinent from sex, which is great. Contraceptives have now become more easily accessible in the United States. More pregnancy prevention programs are aimed at teenagers, and an increase in popularity among teens for long-acting different types of contraceptive, and then just such as an IUD. In the state of Maryland, we're currently rating 11.3, which is down. The national average is 13.9, but still, we still have teenage pregnancies. And of course, what do these teenage parents face? They are most likely less likely to finish high school. They are more likely to need public assistance. They are more likely to have low income as an adult, and they are more likely to have children who face poor education behaviors and health outcomes. And once again, what is this all costing us? This amount was from 2011, and it was $11 billion. The new rate is $28 billion it's costing us every year. And the reason for that amount is due to increased healthcare cost, foster care, increased incarceration rates among children of teenage parents, loss of tax revenue, and once again, the income among teenage parents. So what are some barriers to access condoms? Of course, we talked about the stigma, just being able to walk into a store, just to have the confidence to do that. Oh, is that person looking at me? All these things that run through someone's head. A lack of education, they're just not aware of it. I do know that the school, we do provide a sex education class, but still, there's also still that lack of education. Parental resistance, if parents are willing to discuss this with their parents or are willing to discuss this with their child, or they just want strictly abstinence. Religious or cultural taboos, limited access in schools, the cost. So on average, I don't know if anybody's bought a box of condoms recently. A box of condoms, just 3 condoms, it's $7.99 without tax. So once again, a lot of these kids, they don't have an after-school job, they go to school full-time. So $8, I mean, that adds up. So lacks of confidence, or confidentiality, I'm sorry. Of course, the geographical barriers, which we already talked about. We're in a rural community. We don't have a Walgreens on every corner, and limited access to health care. So advantages to providing access. Sex education, I'll go into a little bit more of that in a minute. Preventing unplanned pregnancies, STI prevention, hopefully empowering both people in that relationship to have a discussion, discuss what they are and they're not comfortable with, kind of setting barriers, setting limits, and sticking to them. Reducing those stigmas that you can just walk in and get the supplies that you need with confidence. Also confidentiality, to know this is, staying where it should. I'm not going to go tell my neighbor who knows your mom who then is going to tell you. It's confident. Peer pressure management, once again, let's build up that confidence that they can do this and take ownership of this. Parental communication is always huge and key. Emergency situations and healthcare cost reduction. So 2 of the different programs that are out there is a condom availability program. They have been out since the early 90s. They are ways that schools can help prevent HIV and STDs and pregnancy among teens. Research has shown that these programs in high schools do not increase sexual activity among teens, and they can increase condom use among sexually active students and students at high risk. So usually, these programs will take place in a school nurse's office, a school-based health center, designated classrooms, or special vending machines. Just kind of depends on the program. Also, along with this, health education, a referral to the community provider for contraceptive services, HIV and STD treatment, and testing and treatment. So another program is called a Brown Bag Program. It's an anonymous program distributing condoms. This is actually what we use at the health department. We have a brown bag, we fill it with condoms, and also a little pamphlet on how to use a condom, and also information just on general STIs. So the Kent County Health Department, through this, if approved, in support, helping supply condoms with the school, plan information and pamphlets on STIs and how to use a condom, and education on approved topics if requested. We, of course, have those resources at the health department. So current practices that other schools are using in the area are that condoms are available in school-based health centers. So currently, Talbot, Caroline County, Wacomico County, Queen Anne's County, and Dorchester all have them in their school-based health centers available. Mainly across the Western Shore, they all have more of the brown bag program, where a brown bag is easily accessible. In Anne Arundel County, they have just a basket that's on the nurse's station, or the nurse's office on her desk, where they can just walk in and just grab a single condom and walk out. The other programs that they have, where it's a brown bag program at other schools, they actually have to sign in that they want to talk about STIs with the nurse. They will actually speak to the nurse about STIs. They will be given a brown bag filled with condoms. They will also be given an STI at-home testing kit that they can send in at home if they would like. And then that's how they would have access to it. So these programs can vary depending on what your community needs and what your students are most comfortable with. So, and then that's all that I have.
And just to round it out, the reason the birth rates are down, but STIs are on decline, is we have this false sense that because parents are doing a great job by getting their kids on birth control and IUDs and all that good stuff, they're doing a great job with that. Unfortunately, we forget about the other end. So the sex STIs are on the rise because they're not using condoms because they think they're protected because they have birth control. So we're not having babies, but we're passing the gift that keeps on giving to everybody for the rest of your life. And that's what we're really, really trying to turn the tide on in this county, because it's just, the numbers we saw, we just had a regional health meeting across in Baltimore that had all 24 counties, and the Eastern Shore is one of the highest on all of the charts.
I was wondering if you had any stats for Kent County. This was all about Maryland.
Yeah, so when, I didn't bring them with me because they weren't CDC approved, and we tried to only use CDC approved information. But what was presented in the regional meeting with all 24 counties, we hit number 3 on almost all things.
We meaning Kent or the Eastern Shore?
Kent County.
Yeah. Okay.
Not far behind us is Caroline County and Somerset County.
Yeah.
They're close to us. It's a lot on the Eastern Shore, but we have it really comes to the geography down here. It's not like Baltimore, it's not like those other areas, you know. They don't need mom to take them to the store. They don't have dad with them at the store. They're not trying, you know, they can walk to the corner and get whatever they need. They can go to the local health departments and get whatever. Everybody else here has to drive to get anywhere, to get anything, and it is a small community. We run into everybody everywhere we go. So that stigma is for real, alive, and well in our community. So we're trying to make it where the kids, and I know that in the past, there was concerns about, what they did with the condoms, if they got them in the schools and the water balloons, and I know that that's been history. That is going to happen, I'm not going to lie to you. The first few weeks that they get it, every single school talked about that pretty much, that for the first week or two, the novelty hits, and people come and get their little bags, and you have water balloons everywhere. But after the first week or two, the novelty wears off, and they realize, whoo, this is a good thing. All righty then, and they really start using it. Any questions?
I have a question. I heard you say that, you let them know that, what they tell you stays with them, with you, and in confidence. So how much do you encourage them to have a conversation with their parents? Because I would think that if you had to live in a home where everybody has all these secrets, it's not a good thing to encourage that. I mean, you can't make them have a conversation with their parents, or their parents have one with them, but I don't think that we should totally encourage them not to. I mean, I just feel like that some of this is encouraging that. I remember when I took my kids to the doctor, and they were probably around 12 or so. It shocked me because I didn't know that we did things like that. But a nurse comes in and she says, would you like your mother to go out of the room? Now, as being the one that born them, birthed them, was cut wide open to have them, still remembering the flashbacks. I didn't appreciate that. Plus, I'm feeding, clothing, struggling, scraping, knee bending, crawling, trying to get them to where they need to be. And then she comes in. I'm the one that has to transport them to the doctor. And I suppose that if they had said, yeah, they had a way to bring them home, to another home, I suppose. I mean, I'm just being real. Take it how you want.
No, I hear you.
I didn't appreciate that at all, but of course my daughters had enough sense to say, no, I don't want her to go. And if my daughters had a thing where they were having an issue or felt like that, hey, I'm ready for that, then we could sit down and talk about it. Before my, no, I'm not gonna say that, I won't put nobody's business in the street. But, but what I am saying is this, we could sit down and talk about it because even though it seems like sometimes by the state we're regarded as a people, we can be parents, but then we don't have any good sense after that. But that's not so, because we have been young our own selves, so we know the different things if you give us a chance. But a lot of times it takes it away from us, so then it takes also the kids have a lack of respect for their parents because they think they can go around and do things their own way. But if you can't take care of yourself, I just feel like the parents should be involved in some of these things. Maybe they wouldn't make as the choices wouldn't be as bad. And one other thing I want to say, you said that the parents was doing great with the IUDs and the birth control and different things like that, but they forgot to tell them to use a condom. It's not necessarily so. It could be just that the child or a young man decided not to use the condom because we know what the stigma with that is. Without the condom, it feels a little better. Okay? So, just being real. So that may have been the reason, and children don't always listen to what we tell them. So, because having a son, I would encourage him to do so if he's going to go out here. But I don't want him to feel like just because I wear a condom, I can jump on everybody's back or front. So, I'm just saying, okay? I just wanted to know that, and I want to know what responsibility do you hold if that condom does not hold up?
So we are not the condom maker. We don't hold that responsibility. All we can do is give you the tools to be there, to supply them, to give them the opportunity to be safe. As far as the parents, we are governed by the laws just like the doctor's office are, and we cannot tell the parents things that the children don't want us. Now, are we going to educate them? Are we going to encourage them? Absolutely. We do that already when we talk to students anytime they come in, because let's be honest, if you have your parent on your team and you have good communication, you can conquer the world. So we're always going to encourage talking to parents. but does burying your head in the sand and not acknowledging that this is an ongoing problem, an ever-rising problem, and so we just don't put it on the table at all, that's not an option either, because we see where those statistics are going. So we will continue to always encourage parent-foster relationships, always, always 1,000. I have 3 boys, okay? I want to know everything my kids are doing, and I want to have that communication. So I would not expect anything less for somebody else with us, someone else's child. I would want the same respect. So our staff, our nurses in the health department, almost every one of them are mothers, would want the same consideration, and they treat every child the same way. So as we give these out, as we talk to them, if we get to this point, then we will always encourage. We'll ask them, have you talked to mom and dad about this? Have you talked about getting stuff at home? We offer those conversations, and we try to initiate them and have them with them. Because let's be honest, if parents are buying it too, that's less cost on us too. So it's a win-win situation.
No, I would still want them to get it for free. But I'm just saying, I just don't appreciate my rights being taken. The only thing I have the right to do is to struggle, work hard, and basically give birth to the children anymore, because it seems like all the rest of our rights are being taken, even without our knowledge. You know, I first heard of that when I went to the doctors, which shocked me.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad the answers were right, because it could have
Yeah.
been, you know,
Yeah,
it could have been awful.
I get it. That's why they can go to Planned Parenthood or anywhere, and they don't even need your consent. They can get treatment, they can get procedures, they can do all kinds of things without
No,
your consent.
that's not why, because I didn't have anything against my children having what they needed, but that was taken from me by me finding out that this is how you're gonna run it. We just cannot stereotype the parents and act as if we all are the same, because we aren't. You know, and that's what I'm saying. Whether you realize it or not, that's what it's telling us as parents, is that you're from the door taking that right away from us because you think that parents will not communicate with their children. So I'm going to leave it at that, but that's what it does. I think we should do something that will open that door back up, instead of every time we turn around, there's a right being taken. And you're doing this for our children, but what are you doing for the parents and the children as one? Because that's what's necessary. And no, I don't want to see a bunch of babies, and I do not want to see people have to walk around with diseases and, you know, in bad health. But I'm just saying in general that we have given birth to our children, and we love them more than anyone else does. You best believe that. Now, all parents may not be like that, but I love my children and children that's not even mine, the same as I love my own. So I'm not going to do anything to damage anything to keep them from being successful. And they can talk to me about anything, and I just don't appreciate the way that we kind of crawl up under the door and decide to do it another way. If it's necessary, so be it, but you shouldn't take it away from good parents. Like you said, I want to know everything about my kids, and so do I. I don't want to send them to school for 8 hours and find out that they're being told this, this, and this, and then it comes back, and it does affect our relationship, because just like they kept that, next thing you know, they're keeping something else, and something else, and something else, you know. And it could be things that's bad for their health, and you're not there to rescue them. But it started them on a roll to feel like they were, you know, you don't have to talk to your parents. So I'm done with it.
Are there any additional comments?
I think your point about accessibility and resources in a rural area is really valid. You know, aside from the stigma, the idea that being able to provide condoms to students with a nurse or a health professional on hand, as opposed to just a cashier who is not going to try to provide some additional information and try to provide some guidance, I think is a benefit. And, you know, aside from the disease that can be spread, we all know that Kent County is a bit of a women's healthcare desert right now. And it is, as somebody who was pregnant when obstetrics closed, it is a hardship during pregnancy to try to locate nearby healthcare. So I actually think this would be a valuable resource for our students. So I thank you for coming and presenting tonight.
I'm watching Maddie shake her head. Do you mind sharing your thoughts on this? I would like to hear from someone who would be affected by this, if it's not putting you
No.
in a bad spot.
I think it's great. I'm all for better sex education. I think that, I mean, I can't, not to say that this is anybody's fault, it was during COVID, but I can't remember my sex ed class. Like, I was a freshman during COVID. I don't know if I slept through it or if it didn't load.
Didn't hold your interest, is that what you're telling me?
But I cannot, so I can't speak to that class as a whole because I, for some reason, cannot recall it. But I think that it's really important, and I think that you're absolutely right. As kids, these kids don't go to the Walgreens because we know the cashier. We don't even go to the Walmart in Middletown because we know the person in the next aisle. It's like there is a stigma, and it is. You're right. There's not a Walgreens on every corner, and there's 2 health departments in the county. One. There's one place. I was like, you might have had a different location. It's like, I think that it's great, and I think that I know kids that would definitely benefit from this, and I think that the week of water balloons is absolutely worth taking down these numbers, and it would be a great benefit for these kids. So.
Do you think I'll use the word confidentiality as opposed to taking a right away from a parent? I see Aretha's point as well. Do you think the confidentiality that comes with a program like this would lend itself to greater participation?
Yes.
By Kent County High School students?
Yeah, and I think that it's not even because these kids don't trust their parents or they don't. And I know that these programs definitely encourage these kids to have these conversations with these parents. It also comes from a place of, it's kind of like therapy. It's like the therapist does not go tell my mom what I'm talking about. And I have to learn how to have that conversation with my parents. And they encourage me to do that, and there should be a resource for that. That's my skill that I have to learn how to do.
How old are you, 35? You're so smart.
I have a great relationship with my mom, and that I had to learn that, and I built that because of programs because there was confidentiality between adults. And I think that it would be great for students to have that in their schools because therapy is not an option. And I know that guidance counselors are there, but it's a different type of confidentiality, and there's a really big stigma around sex, and I think that it would be a great opportunity for these kids to learn that. So,
thanks for sharing.
It's good to hear that from your point of view, and you're saying that you have actually experienced where, not necessarily this, but confidentiality with the, adults, where it helps you to, form a relationship, a better relationship with your mom. I like that. I just,
This is all truly
I don't
to
like the
build
other.
confidence and empower a teenager to have that conversation. Working at the health department, I work family planning as well. It's amazing when parents come in with their child and we start that conversation, and then it just continues when they go home. And once again, these programs have been in since the 90s. It does not increase sexual activity amongst students. It doesn't. But just to have that, accessibility, to empower them to have that conversation with not only their parent, but also their partner. So.
Okay.
Okay.
There's so much taken from the parents anymore.
Are there any additional
I'm not
comments?
saying this either.
All right, this was for information only.
Right. I think I wanted to give I know from Dr. Walker's perspective, we wanted to give the opportunity to hear the presentation, think it through, and then at some point, if, this is the route we want to go, or how you want to proceed, I'll look for some guidance from the Board of Ed.
Yeah, because we would like a formal vote on the topic at some point, and we would like to have a plan in place on how we bring it to your school. And so we need feedback from you on those presentations that we just gave you and the different methods. We would prefer at the health department to have the student come to the nurse's office to get a bag and talk to a nurse. Not specifically for STI, because I think that puts a stigmatism on it, but to have them come pick the thing up and the nurse say, because nurses have a whole different mentality and personality. There's nothing off limits to us, and we have a way of talking to kids about things that are much less threatening, that we can approach things and we can talk to them. Hey, you know how to use this? And we we have a stash of bananas just in case. Like, do you know what to do with this? Do you know what you're looking for? Do you know how to get this? We can have that conversation with them. And that way, we also get to have the conversation. Your parents have done this, that's how you got here. Don't be afraid to talk to your parents about this. They would want to know, they would probably help you. Open up the lines of communication, we're always here, because we want to make sure, because I'm with you. I want to know what my kids are doing, I want to be involved. So if we have the nurse giving out the packet, then it keeps this communication open, and it's not like somebody grabbing it and running. It's somebody that we get to talk, we get to connect, and it forms relationships with the kids. So if they are in a relationship down the line that's not so great, or they're having symptoms that are not so great, they feel comfortable to come back to us. So it does nothing but foster a circle of conversation and accountability and relationships to build on. And that's what we're looking for.
So the question that I have heard from some parents are, what if they don't want their child to participate in this program? What are their options as a parent?
So that gets tricky. That really does. I mean, because we have lots of opt-out forms in the school board, which you're very much aware of. So none of the schools, other school districts have that form for the condom programs, because it is actually, President Biden's initiative as well. So we don't give that form out. I would say that if you have a parent that is adamant on it, but I would really caution, I would say that I would recommend that they have an education session with us, because if you have one or two kids that you're like, oh, he can't have condoms or she can't have condoms, and you put them on the list of do not give out, and then they're the only kid, do you not think their friends are going to get it for them? Do you not think that they're going to get it other ways? It's still going to happen, but now you've just hampered the communication, the building of the relationship, and you've hampered it for the parents.
Right.
So
But I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
I get it.
there will,
I'm sure there'll be-
I'm sure, we're a conservative community too, so I just want to be clear about questions that maybe some board members didn't want to ask, in terms of, if you have a parent, there was legislation that was introduced the last session about taking away parental rights.
Right.
So my question would be, if we have a parent, or even an employee who's a parent, that says, I do not, for my own personal family values and beliefs, I don't want my child to have access, is that an option?
I mean, if they absolutely don't want it and we have to address it, I would have to find out from the state how we would make a form for that, because none of the other counties, as far as I know, don't quote me, I will look it up.
Right.
Don't have a form for that.
Yeah, I think we'd have to have that answered.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I would definitely want to hear from parents and some other folks. I mean, we do have some pockets and some parents that want to have that ability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would be really curious to understand what that looks like, and then also to get some feedback from the other counties that have some type of program, to understand how they manage through that.
Yeah.
Because I think those real-life examples will help
For sure.
Right.
in taking a look at everything.
And then the last question that I have is, the program that you're proposing to put into it would only be in the high school, and it would only, there were several different methods that you had in terms of distributing the supplies, if you will. Would it, there was vending machines, there was nurse's office, there was a brown bag. What specifically are you proposing for the high school?
So it's your house, and we're a guest in your house, so we have to abide by your rules. So really, what program you pick is what we have to go with, and we
Okay.
would be happy to get it in any way, the shape, or form that we can.
Okay.
Ideally, we want it in middle school and high school, but we're opting for high school because we know the community is the community, and we do have a very conservative community. So we'll start at the high school. I, at the health department, as the director of nursing, and our team would prefer to have it come to the nurse's office and have to talk to somebody. Because when I say that we want to foster the relationship, I want to foster the relationship. I want to make sure the kids can talk to us, have questions, and that we also can encourage them to be upfront with parents, to go back and develop these relations, to talk about this stuff with their parents. And if we don't do it, the other methods don't allow that
Right.
opportunity.
Do we know 18-year-old students, they necessarily would not, I'm not sure what the law states, but parents are kind of cut out of that process if they're 18?
If they're an adult, if they're 18 or older.
Yeah, I just
they're
didn't know
out.
what the classification, I just want to
Yeah.
understand what that, I'm not sure how many of our students are, 18 plus.
Or they probably turn 18 during
While
their
they're
senior
senior
year.
year.
Yeah, I just don't know when that is,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious. Okay.
Right, so this is opportunity to kind of listen to the presentation, allow an opportunity to think it through, and then at some point, I'd like some more information about some of the questions that I asked.
Yep.
And then I'll share that with the board members, and then at some point, we can revisit.
All right.
Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Okay, we're going to move into administrative services. The first section is expenditures revenue report.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board. We're going to go over the expenditure and revenue report for tonight. This is as of November 30th, 2023. For our Fund 1, we've received about $17.2 million. For Fund 3, $706,000. Fund 5, $503,000, to bring us to a total cash receipts of $18,418,423.19. We'll move over to our current expense fund. To date, we have expended about 75% of our budget. Into our school construction, we do not have any new projects for this current year, so what you're seeing now is what we are building upon, what we have outstanding, which is still some loose ends with our roof project and our middle school feasibility study. And then our food service, we've expended about 68% of that funding. Follow up with our restricted funds, we've expended about 29%, and then the last page, as always, is just an overview of receipts and expenditures. And I will entertain any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for the reports? Okay, Ms. Stewart, thank you. That was for information purposes only. No action required. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the COVID funding update.
And I'm going to qualify this. I know there's been a lot of information, a lot of news coverage on school systems that have a lot of their COVID funding still in their budgets, and what are they doing to spend down the monies and what, So I thought, you probably might be asking the same thing about our district. Where do we stand with all of our COVID funding? So I asked Ms. Stewart to prepare something for you and allow you an opportunity to go grant by grant so you can see where we're at with all of our funding. And you'll see she did an amazing job. So.
All right, so this is our funding overview. The PowerPoint, which you would see, I did a lot of highlights, but I will be expounding, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me those questions. The agenda tonight will review all the COVID-19 funding sources that we received when the pandemic actually happened, review the amounts allocated as well as the resources of funding. We're going to start with our first funding source, which is ESSER, the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. And this award we received, it was about $522,000, and it was for March 13th to September 30th for 2022. Some of the resources we used for were summer techs, overtime for bus drivers, PPE, Chromebooks, nurse beds, Schoology, and there was a non-public allocation. This initial award was strictly for COVID relief. So when the pandemic happened, everything was shut down. We needed the summer techs in order to still provide school online, the bus drivers delivering meals. A lot of this funding was going towards that. The non-public allocation, we had to reach out to all the non-public schools within Kent County. We had to ask them if they wanted to receive funding. That was a really drawn out and extensive process because we had to make sure that we came in contact with them to provide them with this opportunity. In the end, only Chestertown Christian Academy and Friendship Montessori elected to receive a portion of funding, which was based on their enrollment.
Is ESSER funding state or federal funding?
It is federal funding.
Federal, okay, thank you.
All of this is federal funding.
Always federal, great.
Followed up from ESSER 1, we had the Governor's Emergency Educational Relief Fund, which is GEAR. This was about $23,000, the same time frame. The resources for the GEAR funding were strictly used only for technology. That was the allowability of the grant. So what we did was we used it to purchase a portion of the cost of year one of Schoology, which is the online resource that we use for our students. And again, the non-public allocations still remain the same, but at this time, only Chestertown Christian Academy elected to do so because the rules still apply to them in the same way as us. So, wanted to throw this in there. We did, I believe Ms. Gina and her team, and there were some others that worked really hard for this competitive grant. So this was a funding to assist with a program that we did not currently have. So it was something that was supposed to be new and innovative, something similar like Maryland Leads. And I believe we were going to do like makerspace with this funding to a certain extent. So unfortunately, we did not get this resource. So then we had ESSER 1. This kind of came out of nowhere. This was strictly for food service, so with this funding was about $14,000, and we just used it to pay a portion of the cafe manager salaries. Now we transition to the coronavirus relief funding, and there was two types of fundings to that. The first was the tutoring grant. The amount was about $279,000. We had remaining $13.83. There was really nothing to cover that. But essentially we did use majority of the funding. We had a short time frame to use this funding. And the resources that we used this for was for Gizmos. This was site license for math and science, Imagine Learning, composition notebooks and testing headphones and math manipulatives. We then received the technology grant. Any questions?
For the licenses that were purchased, are those long-term? Are we going to continue budgeting for those licenses, or will we not?
That's our grant funding. If Ms. Jean, if you help me out with this.
There are some that continue through other sources, but there are also others that were just short-term.
Yeah, and some of them we just utilized to help augment and to support some of the virtual learning that we had at the time. So it made sense. Doesn't mean that we'll necessarily continue that.
It wouldn't carry over?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So the technology grant. We received about $205,000. We had about $493 remaining in this. The award for this actually got extended another year, but we used this resource for Khajiit hotspots when the bus drivers were going out to different areas of the community, when there were students that did not have connectivity. We were able to purchase hotspots for that, Promethean boards, Chromebooks for our students, Mac Air books for our teachers, and voice amplifiers that I believe some of the teachers used when they were doing the virtual learning in their classroom so the students could actually hear. Now we get to the course of COVID, that we got all that funding, but now we got to reopen back the schools up. So hence why this is the ESSER Reopening Schools Incentive Act. So the grant funding for this was to be used for, oh, it stopped on me, Bill.
Is it froze? Did it freeze?
I think so. Okay. So we received about $241,000 for this grant, and this grant was to be used to assist reopening the schools. I believe at this time we were doing hybrid learning, so some were online. I think we had, like A day, B day, so some students that were parents that elected their kids to come back, this funding assisted with that. A lot of the resources we use for part-time personnel, like ESOL IA, Tech IA, custodians, and bus aides, because at the time we needed those assistants for the connectivity, making sure that all of our buildings were clean in compliance with not spreading the virus. Bus aid assistance, we purchased PPE materials. ALICE training was a big thing that assisted with reopening back to school, so a portion of those funds were used for that. And then other charges such as the bottle fillers, you will see that if you go to the schools, instrument covers, new classroom rugs for each elementary school, because we wanted to be clean, and we noticed that that was a huge need, so that was.
We're still doing ALICE training, though, with staff, is that correct?
We did train the trainers, so we have
Okay.
our own trainers internally now.
Great, thank you.
But we still are doing training, yes.
Good.
Yep. So now, as it's being encouraged to come back to the school and the students to come back to the school, we run into this ARP funding. For fiscal year '21, this is the American Rescue Plan Supplemental Aid Grants. The first source of this funding was the school reopening, so this was an additional $7,000 that we were able to utilize. We utilized these funds for second step SEL kits for school guidance counselors and social workers. This would help to assist them to assist our students with any social or emotional needs when fully returning to school. Then we get the summer school funding, the fiscal year '21 ARP, and this was about $52,000, and then hence the title, we used it for summer school. So this was used to pay for our summer coordinators and our summer site coordinators to assist in operating summer school. I believe there was like 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, something in that range, and 1, I think, at each elementary school.
We're hoping to continue the summer acceleration academies, aren't we?
Okay, well, we've applied for the 21st Century Grant, which we should know something about, but we will not be able to conduct it at every single school because we won't have this funding anymore.
Okay.
So it'll go back to pre-COVID, which will mean we'll have it at one site, maybe at one secondary site, and then one elementary, and then we'll have to just provide busing and identify students, so.
But that's if we get the grant?
Well, I think we will, but we
Okay.
still have to apply and wait to see if we get the award.
Gotcha.
So I can't say with absolute certainty that we'll get the grant.
Okay, thank you.
And then we come, I believe this is the last of the fiscal year '21 ARP funding, the trauma and behavioral health, which was about $7,000 that we received, and we actually used this to pay social workers and the guidance counselors throughout the summer for the summer programs. Now we run on to fiscal year '22, and of this funding, I believe they gave us 4 different supplemental grants within the ARP funding for fiscal year '22. Again, it's the summer school. We did the same thing as we did prior summer school. These funds we have until December 31st of 2024. So if we are awarded that funding for the summer, these funds can be used to assist with summer school as well.
And as you see, there's not a lot of money left there.
That's $6,700 left of that funding. Then we get to our, this was new, the supplemental instruction and tutoring grant. When we first received this funding, we used it to pay for salaries for 4 instructional assistants in grades 4 through 12, because the grant specifically said that we had to use it for personnel or for resources to provide one-to-one assistance, tutoring, that kind of personal learning environment. We did that for 1 year, which assisted us as well to provide those services. However, we're left with $109,000. We do have a budget amendment that is out with the state. We're looking to see if we can get approved some of the home hospital, some of the other IAs that we know may do one-to-one. Evening school is another KBLA where there's one-to-one services. So the amendment is out currently now being reviewed by the state. We're just waiting to hear back so that we can utilize the remaining funds. But again, we do have until December 31st of 2024 to utilize this.
And just to note, and just to emphasize and note, we are planning to spend all of it. So
Yeah.
if it means we have to move some of our current expenses in our present budget and move it into the grant for 1 year, just to spend out the money and build up some more cash balance or fund balance, that's what we're going to do. That's the plan.
Right. Then we have the transitional supplemental instruction funding. And yes, you all know we do have unrestricted TSI money in this, but for ARP funding, this was our restricted funding. And it's still the same thing, but this, we have used all of the funding. It was about $41,000. The funding had to be used for, I believe, K through 3 or either K through 2. And so what we chose to do, still providing one-to-one assistance, et cetera. And so what we chose to do was take a portion of salaries for kindergarten, 2 kindergarten IAs to pay for that year. So that's how we utilize those fundings. And then the last was trauma and behavioral health. And this is about $10,500. We have remaining about $2,600 in this funding, so we do plan to use it. So if there's something comes up over the summer or if anything pertaining to mental health, we do have this funding to do that.
And I do want to note that I just received a message that we were notified that we got the 21st Century Grant. So we received $129,000 to help us run the summer school programs. Great.
So now, on to bigger and better things. This is where we get this mass funding. ESSER 2. ESSER 2, we were awarded $2.3 million. We had until this past September 30th to spend down the funds, and we did spend down the funds. This was the funding source we used to pay for summer school. This was required by, we got this from the feds, required by the state. The allowability was strictly, well, not necessarily strictly, but majority was for summer school. So how we were able to run the Acceleration Academy and do all this came from ESSER 2. Now, we did pay for salaries for 2 instructional coaches, a program specialist, some of our instructional needs, which was DreamBox, Inquired, Edulastic, Lexia Learning, and WEA, which that is testing that we pay for, SPED assistive technology, and air ventilation cleaning for all the schools. Then we come to ESSER 3. And got excited there.
A lot of money.
ESSER 3, we received $5.2 million for this grant, and we have until the end of September of next year to spend down the funds. There's a remaining amount, about $1 million. However, there is a plan to spend that down that we do not anticipate having any funding at the end. Again, for this, we do have a budget amendment out with the state for approval. We did some readjustments with salaries and different things. This is where the retention stipends and healthcare holidays coming from. We have 2 years of that. We pay for salaries with the testing coordinator, custodians, bus drivers, our public relations coordinator, guidance counselors. This was where the COVID IAs came into play, our tech support and ESOL support. You will see a host of a lot of instructional costs that we had, which was Schoology, The Wonders, Khajiit, Edmentum, restorative practices. I mean, we have done a lot with this funding. And then it was any items related to learning loss. So sometimes supplies and materials that teachers may need to assist with students, et cetera. So that's kind of where we stand now with ESSER 3.
Would it
Can I ask
be
a que-
possible to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Would it be possible to use some of the balance to cover the college class tuition costs that we are now incurring? Or it
I
can't?
caution that because ESSER 3 was to be strictly used for learning loss.
Okay.
So when it comes, and the other thing to this, and I'm glad you brought that up so I can mention it, the other thing to this, there was a maintenance of equity that we had to prove, as well as there's 20% of this funding had to go to learning loss. And I don't know how the state is going to do it to come back and monitor it. So how we've been monitoring is just making sure we can tie it back to learning loss. So that, it can be a possibility. We'll have to probably do a budget amendment if it comes to that state. But I try to just make sure that this funding is used for
Learning loss.
those
Okay.
things.
Thank you.
Maybe we used, it was like the YMC and other stuff, but I thought that some of those perks for our employees came out of the LEADS grant.
Yes. The YMCA did come out of the LEADS grant.
I thought the stipends too, but no?
Some.
Okay.
Some.
Well,
So
some are
that's
not.
where, no, because the retention stipend and the healthcare holiday initially, 1 year, which was 2024, was supposed to come out of there, but we ran into the issue of the misunderstanding with the match requirement.
Okay.
So the 1.5 million, we
remember there was a
budgeted an extra
misunderstanding.
1.5.
Okay.
So in order to sustain that and
To
make
honor
sure that we did
we
that,
took it somewhere else.
we had enough money,
Okay.
ESSER 2, to cover for 2 years.
So that
Okay.
covered our share.
Yeah.
Yeah, but am I correct that initially I thought it was coming out of the...
Yeah, initially,
Okay.
yes, correct.
Okay,
That's why I
Correct.
said some.
okay, I got you. Okay.
Correct. And last but not least, now we have Maryland Leads. And Maryland Leads is completely different, hence my background for the PowerPoint slide. Because it's mind-blowing, it's crazy, it's different, the match thing that came up. So essentially, what it all boiled down to, we had to show a $1.5 million match in order to get 6.5, not how other grants where if you are getting 100,000, you match 100,000, because that's a one-to-one match. But we got around it, everything worked out. We have until, again, September 30th of 2024 to spend this funding. Now, the remaining amount, please do not be alarmed, that is just as of current date. We do not anticipate, we anticipate about $2 million being left over. Our holdup with Maryland
What do
Leads,
you mean when you say leftover?
remaining to spend. But-
Between now and the end of September of
Yes.
next year?
But wait, there's a
Yes.
caveat.
Okay.
So here's the reason why, I'm just saying that to just full transparency, the caution, we received news that there could be a later liquidation period. So they're not going to extend the grant end date, but they'll extend the liquidation period. That means if you encumber funding, for example, if we encumber the funds by September 30th, most times in restricted funding, you have 90 days to liquidate that encumbrance, meaning that you have 90 days to pay for that service or that resource. Let's just say they liquidated to 6/30/2025. Well, we can encumber those expenses to kind of hold us off another year, so we won't deal with that huge funding cliff. Now, here's the caveat to that. There's going to be a specific process to that. We will have to get whatever we deem liquidated approved by the state. It's not just going to be, oh, you can just encumber these funds and that's going to be it. So that's why I put that out there, so that we are working collectively together. We do have a plan either way. We have spoke with Dr. Couch, it's been myself, Dan, and Ms. Gina, and we have sat. So we do have a plan. We're just in a tight hole right now. We're looking to have answers, and I'm hoping I should have answers by the end of this month, so I can give you all an update going forward with Maryland Leads. We do have, resources, and as you will see here, a lot of our resources that have been very helpful are student support coaches, the 5 school-based coaches, the letters training that's been received, wellness, this is where those incentives come in with the wellness, not necessarily like wellness rooms now, but we kind of transitioned to the whole, and YMCA and having a staff clinician, and so those, and the tuition reimbursement, encouraging our employees to go back to school. This is where
But the reality is, we're not going to be able to do all of those things, so we'll have to prioritize. Our plan is to talk to the principals and get their feedback in terms of what they feel were the most successful supports in helping them move their schools forward academically, and try to prioritize those things first. So I would say probably, I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking the YMCA is probably going to be lower on the list, and some of the other things will probably be higher. So we want to use whatever is remaining in this grant to support and augment student achievement.
Because this grant, so everyone knows, this grant specifically was to use the funding above and beyond what we're already doing.
Right.
There was a supplement, not supplant requirement. So if we're doing it at the local level, we shouldn't be using Maryland Leads to do it. So it's totally different from what we're doing. We had 4 areas that We utilized the funding for which was science of reading, staff support and retention, grow your own, and high-quality tutoring. So everything pretty much had to pertain to that, and we had to give reasoning behind it as well with this grant. So that concludes my PowerPoint. If you have any questions, ask me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Are there any questions regarding the funding review?
No, I just want to say it must have been a lot of work to keep track of all those grades, so thank you.
It was a blessing and a curse all in the same vein, for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. We appreciate that.
Anytime.
Okay, we'll move into the food service donations.
All right, so administration is requesting board approval for the food service donations received. We received 2 monetary donations, one from Peggy Sullivan, the amount of $100 for Rock Hall Elementary School, and then another $100 donation from John and Colleen Trainer for lunch donation. So these will be strictly used for food service, so we're just asking for board approval to proceed with utilizing these funds.
Great.
I just have a question, like the $100 for Rock Hall Elementary School, is that for like students who are in arrears, but what is that money actually used for?
My assumption, because all on the check was just Rock Hall Elementary School, we do get donations or have received donations for like second meals. So if a student wanted to come up and get a second meal, that has been used, or if there are negative balances,
That's
it
what I
will be
meant, 'cause
used to
I
go
know
over
that
there.
We've talked about, like, at the end of the school year, if there were, I use the word arrears, kids
Yeah.
that had a balance that hadn't been paid, that their community contributions could help do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, but remember, we have free lunch and breakfast
I
now.
know, that's why
Yeah.
I'm asking about
Yeah.
that, so.
So this would probably cover second meals because their first meal is already covered.
Okay, I gotcha.
And just to note, any meals that are in arrears, we can't use our current expense funding to pay for that. So, and even if it's back pay, we still have to try to find a way to get it down, unfortunately.
Yeah, so, I don't want to open up a can of worms. So what happens if there are, at the end of the year, some unpaid balances? How do the books get, whatever the right word is in accounting? You know what I mean? Or do you write it off as a loss?
And I'm sorry, because I did misspeak. Food service can't pay for it, but if that's something that current expense, because you can do transfers from the current expense to pay for food service, but that's where those donations are helpful, and I believe that's kind of one of the issues that does happen in food service, but now that we're all CEP, it's
Yeah.
more so of dated balances versus what's really current.
Okay.
So it's just something it's a work in progress. We kind of work with the state to ask what are different ideas that we can do to seek assistance for that.
Okay, because I know the food service is supposed to be self-sufficient, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this is an action item. The administration is seeking approval from the board to utilize the food services donations received. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rhodes has a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to D, Procedure 800-61, use of school facilities and/or grounds.
All right. So this is for information only. We have reviewed our use of school facilities and grounds. This is a procedure that has kind of, to be honest, it's been dated for a while. I think it was last reviewed probably in the 2000s. The main thing for the building use procedure update is to update with starting with the correct Kent County Board of Education policy that ties to this, which is policy KG. As you will see, it was last revisited in 2011. There have been changes and updates since then. We will start with the first paragraph where we'll be changing to that when the principal submits the building use form, they will submit that use form to the supervisor of finance immediately after the building use form has been completed. The entire form should be submitted so that finance can send the applicable parts of the application to the applicable parties that need the form and for the superintendent's review. So essentially, the superintendent does hold that right to know and what's going on in the facility and have that approval. So this makes sure that that checks and balances is going on, as well as people are paying for building use. So once it gets to finance, my team will send out the invoice to the applicable party, then I disperse all the other forms so everybody is in the know. The other adjustments are just pretty minor. Everything that you see now that's not red, that's what we do. There was a change in, if you see the note P, if concession stands are permitted, all produce must be served in or on disposable containers. Yeah, we don't know why that was put in there, so we just kind of took it out. We don't think that that's applicable to anything that we do to this day. Just updating minor things like from the business office to finance office. The main thing is when we get down to the bottom, and I'm just rolling slow because I don't want to miss anything that I need to note for you all. So there were changes in the user fees. So before we were stating that when we receive the building use form, that it will be based on estimated charges. We know what the charges should be, so it's going to be based on actual charges. And if there were any additional fees that occurred outside of the initial agreed upon application, that the user will be billed accordingly. So those were some changes that we've made and added to that. Now, the bigger thing. So essentially, user fees, as the board, most likely I will be bringing this to you every single year because effective every year, we will look at the user fees and monitor the user fees. You can see clearly, and I'll just go over where, for example, the high school, initially for the auditorium, we were charging $85. Now we're going to be charging $150. Gymnasium, $45. Now I'm charging $150. And as you can see, cafeteria, $45, charging $70. So this will be charged in the minimum of a 4-hour increment. So essentially, if they are utilizing our billing 8 hours, this would be 150 times 2. So you will see the change in fees accordingly. And again, be mindful, these changes are just happening. The last change, as you will see, was revised in 2011. We're now in 2023. And may I add, operational costs are through the roof. So, you know, this.
Well, and then our fees are considerably less.
Yeah.
Even with the change, they are considerably less than other school systems are charging for their facilities.
How
So-
often
Not
is
very
there
often.
a facility request?
Not very often.
Okay.
I mean, we do have like the School of Dance sometimes, or
right.
sometimes we might have a funeral. We don't really have a lot of requests to use we have an agreement with the county commissioners with the community center, so they use our facilities for the after-school program, and they pay one flat fee, and we don't charge them for every little thing.
Should we add Black Box Theater and Planetarium as locations in the high school?
I mean, I don't think we would ever, I don't know, maybe we should. I was just going to say, I don't think we would.
Maybe once the planetarium
It
gets
gets-
its
Right.
facelift,
We
it
don't.
would be the kind of thing we
Right.
might want to rent out a little
Yeah,
bit.
we don't rent out the planetarium right now, nor would we want to, because the equipment is so old, and it takes one individual to run it, and if we were to rent it out and mess up what we do have, that would be problematic. But the Black Box Theater, I could see us adding that on there. And we could probably put that in line with
like the cafeteria or the media center.
Definitely noted. As you will see, the energy fees are no longer optional, as when they're utilizing the building, that's utilizing our electric, gas, heating, all of those things that we need to function the building, so those fees are there. And as you will see, the 2 asterisks, fees to be adjusted annually, so this is something that we would, look at annually if we don't feel that there's any change. There's no change, but mainly, there's a user calendar, so that's another reason why I will be back, just to give the update on when we are out of school. So this pretty much, we're looking to have this go into effect January 1 of 2024, so hence why those dates were adjusted for the remainder of the 2024 school year.
Can I ask a question? So I noticed on our consent calendar, we approved the policy for the use of facilities and buildings. Is there any correlation between that and now a procedure?
So with the policy KG, there was no change.
Okay.
So everything is still in line. We just had to update the procedures. And in the policy, like I said earlier, it does note about the superintendent having that final approval to review the building. So there were no changes for the
Right.
for KG.
It's a general policy, and then the procedure is the
Gotcha.
nuts and bolts.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a pain in the neck for a second.
That's fine.
So, this is the grammar person in me. The word ensure is used incorrectly throughout that policy. It should be ensure, E-N-S-U-R-E.
Okay.
Okay, if you
I
could
would definitely change that.
Thanks. Sorry.
No problem. Not a problem at all. And then
Looking over at me.
You're fine. And then the last page pretty much just gives the directions for completing the application, and hence it's just reiterating what we said at the top about how the principal should send the full building use form to myself, the supervisor of finance, immediately after the building form has been completed. And from there, I'll give to the superintendent for review, and if there are additional charges for, like it's saying, custodians, security guards, or something come up after what was initially agreed upon, then those charges will be billed to them. And that's
Okay,
all.
this was for information only. Are there any additional questions before we move on? Okay, thank you, Ms. Stewart. We appreciate that. Okay, the next item is procedure 300-2, Title IX, sexual harassment.
Thank you, President Getz, school board members, Dr. Couch. This evening, this is for information only. I have one small change, and that change is to reflect the hearing officer for students when a sexual harassment complaint comes in. So you will see that I have just crossed out the old information, which was, that role was held by Tracy Williams, and now with the Dr. Walker sitting in that seat as Supervisor of Student Services, she will now assume that responsibility as noted here. I do anticipate that I will be back sometime this spring with more updated changes as we await the new updated regulations to be released by the federal government sometime in March of '24.
Okay, that was information only as well. Are there any questions? Thank you, Mr. Hushin, appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is payroll procedures.
Good evening, everyone. Back again. This policy, there were updates to this policy, and essentially this policy was updated to be in accordance with the changes that we previously made in our procedures for payroll. As you would note, the change that was made was all employees may elect to have their pay distributed to them via direct deposit into the financial institution of their choice. Employees electing direct deposit will provide the Office of Finance with their account number and financial institution's name, address, and federal routing number. The earnings will be, and that's my fault with the grammar again, the deposited in accordance with the annual published schedule. I will change that when we come back for approval next month. And then just updating from administrative services to finance. So this is the first read of the changes to the policy.
Are there any questions regarding the policy? Okay, that's for information only. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. The next item on the agenda is payday schedules.
All right, so this, we did review the DLA, policy DLA. The only change was just the update to bring to current, that is the Office of Finance and not Administrative Services. Everything else remains the same, and everything else is consistent with what we still do to today.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. That is for information only. Are there any questions regarding that? Okay, seeing none, we'll move over to policy DLB, salary deductions.
And the same for this. Nothing has changed, just the update in the office in which this is held under, which is finance, but everything is the same in how we operate today with our payroll.
Okay, again, for information only, are there any questions for Ms. Stewart? Okay, thank you, Ms. Stewart. We appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is the board handbook.
Okay.
Dr. Couch.
So we had a lengthy discussion at the last board meeting, and so a lot of the recommendations were removed from the document. The only thing that I'll call your attention to is the notation about school visits, and that is on page 6. It says, "Staff and students appreciate board members' visits to their schools. Board members are always welcome and encouraged to visit. Board members are to follow the school visitor policy. Whenever board members visit a school, they should be courteous, respectful, and supportive towards staff, students, and parents at all times. Board members should always remember and respect the time constraints of staff when visiting and follow safety protocols. The principal designee or another staff member will accompany board members. The day-to-day administration of the schools and the right to make corrections or suggestions for change do not fall under a board member's responsibility." And I know we talked about the school visitor policy. I think that if there are changes that the board members would like to make to the school visitor policy, then we should make it in policy, not make it in the board handbook. We reference the policy, and if the policy changes, then that's what changes. But that is a notation that I put into the, I worked with Mr. Constas, and we came up with this as an addition to the board handbook. You'll also note that there are several changes and modifications to COMAR and regulations, so those are in red as well. I won't go over all of those individually. There's some on page 10. There's some other references to it in some of the other portions of the handbook itself. Email communications, you'll look at page 14. We noted Board of Education correspondence and email communications. We just added number 6. Board members should consider all written communication, including email and text message, made in the transaction of public business as subject to the Maryland Public Information Act, which means any of those could be requested. And so be mindful of what you put in a text message or an email. Again, there was some other changes throughout the document, and then nothing else was modified in this handbook.
I have one question.
Mhm.
So you want to go over the board visitation policy, and it says, that's great, you finally put in there that board members are welcome at all times, but do we still have to follow the 2 days in advance?
Yes, that's the policy.
So that means anyone that goes into a school has to get advance 2 days for anything?
Mhm. Well,
So, I mean,
visitors and board members, yes.
For any reason?
Well,
For-
if-
During school hours.
During
If it's
school
a
hours.
parent coming in to meet with the teacher
That's
or a
different.
principal, that's different.
If you're coming in specifically to visit the school, just to visit the school, then you have to give notice. I know that Ms. Dorsey went to visit the middle school, and you worked with Mr. Buckle and gave notice, and that was done appropriately, so. I mean, what I'm saying is, again, if you want to look at the visitor policy separate, certainly that is under the purview of the Board of Ed, and we can do that, but I think we just reference it in this board handbook. We reference the policy, and whatever the policy is what the policy is.
I'll go back to this again. I think we should be able to go into a school and check in. If they don't have time, we can leave. But I don't think we should have to give you 2 days' notice to go into a school. Let's say something is happening that we want to go check on. I mean, I think we should be able to go in. It's my opinion. I think we should have access. The board should have access to any of the schools whenever they want to go in. If the schools don't have time to meet with us, or the principal doesn't, that's fine. But I just think 2 days, if you want to go in for sports or for anything, would you have to give a 2 days' notice?
No, not sports.
Well, where does it, I mean,
Sports
Because
are
it's not a
public.
visitation.
That's not a visitation. Going for a sports event, for a concert, those are public events, and the public is welcome to that.
I just think this is really vague, that's all. I don't agree with it. I think we should be able to access the schools when we want. We're the board. We run the schools. I know you run the schools, but
Right.
you work for us, we should be able to go in there. That's all I say in this, the 2 days' notice to go in.
Right,
and
so
see-
that,
Let's say we find, I didn't mean to interrupt you, apologize, but let's say we see something's going wrong and we want to check it out. Are we supposed to call you every time or spend 2 days before we go in, or can we go in and find out what's going on? I think we should have the ability to go in whenever we want and check in like normal people do, and everyone. And if we can't stay or they're busy, then we'll leave. Or maybe you could make it where 2 days a year we can go in, just to show up. And let's say something's wrong, we want to check it out. I think we should have the ability to do that. Sort of like, as I mentioned before with our business, when OSHA wants to come in and check out what's going on, they don't get an appointment, they just show up. That's just my thinking. I think we should have more.
Well, so if I understand Dr. Couch correctly, those concerns should be addressed
In the
specifically to
policy.
the policy, not in the handbook. The concerns you have about the policy should be talked about the policy.
updating the policy.
I mean, we don't change it in the handbook, we change it in the policy.
Correct.
The handbook
I
will,
understand, I
yeah.
understand that, I understand, but the handbook goes right back to the policy, so it's sort of just pushing it back. Well,
Well-
it's in the handbook, but now it's going to the policy, and I think the policy, and I mentioned before, the gentleman who was in my seat last year voted on it and said, this is really vague. And I remember him, I was at the meeting when he said that, and it is vague. It doesn't give us any, I think we should be able to go in. I mean, if Mr. Getz has a problem, he should be able to go in without 2 days' notice. I just don't agree with that. That's where I'm coming from, so.
So,
Maybe we should go
and
over.
again, policy is under the purview of the Board of Ed. So if you wish to bring back a policy or you want it to be placed on a future agenda, we can certainly do that. But it doesn't make sense to be explicit about, because when you're sworn in as board members, you're sworn in to uphold the policies of the Board of Ed. And that is a policy. If you want to if that is something that the board wishes me to put on the agenda for a revision, we certainly can do that. But referencing a policy is absolutely what we should be doing in the Board of Ed handbook.
So all I can say is, before this turned over last year, this policy was changed December of last year. I remember sitting here when it was changed. I felt that it was a reasoning because for example, wanted to go in and check on the schools, and everyone changed the policy, and I'd like to see what the old policy said. Do you have a copy of it? Does anyone have a copy of the old policy?
I'm sure we can get it.
Before it was changed.
I'm sure I can get that for you.
Okay, and I'd like to revisit this policy at some point at a meeting. Would you be able to do that? Okay, sure.
As soon as, if that's something that the Board of Ed wishes to put on the agenda, I certainly can put that on the agenda for consideration.
I just think it
let
needs
me
to be
know.
honed a little bit, that's all.
I had a question for you. So I'm looking under negotiations. Aren't there 3 bargaining units we negotiate with? The administrators is not listed. The teachers and the support professionals.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 11.
Okay. The Board of Ed engages in contract negotiations with the teachers and the support. Yeah, it's not listed, so it should be included. I don't know how many times we've looked at this, and that's the first time I've seen that.
Are there any other comments or questions?
I have just one thing. I know that you guys discussed it at the last meeting about the student member email correspondence, and I just would like to request that we still add something similar to what I recommended, because we did have a situation where an outside email with confidential information included the student member in the correspondence. So I think if we just had something that would say, if the student member receives such correspondence, that they should notify the superintendent or the president of the board or something like that.
I think that's a valid concern, because the person sending the email in that particular case, I think, did it on purpose. But there are, I'm sure there are other times when somebody will look, somebody that
And
doesn't
see
know anything
everyone.
about Kent County
Yep.
Public Schools but sees the entire list and just sends a blanket thing, so.
Yeah, that would be nice to know too in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we, there could be
Or if
an opportunity where only our student member.
Or if the board member's like, I
information.
don't know if I should have gotten this or
Right.
not, you know?
That would be nice.
Okay, so we're going to bring it back again.
Yeah.
This'll be an ongoing thing, apparently. Okay, so I will bring it back. And I just need direction in terms of the visitors policy. So,
All right, so just to be clear, we're not taking action on the board handbook
No.
tonight. So.
I was really hoping.
Yeah. Regarding the visitor policy, would it be appropriate for us to take it through motion, or how do we?
I mean, to.
Do we need a motion to do
advocate,
that?
I'm not saying how I would vote on it, but to support Mr. Rhodes, I would make a formal request publicly that we
Look at
add
it.
the visitors policy as an agenda item.
Okay.
Separate from
The
the
board
handbook.
handbook. Yeah. Okay,
Non-vote needed, correct?
right. And I will also,
Put it on the agenda for next meeting and discuss it.
right,
Great,
it's not going to
okay.
be for a vote, it'll be for
No,
discussion
I
to
mean
see.
for vote right now.
No, it's-
No.
To bring it.
No, we don't.
Thank
No,
you.
no.
Just want to be clear.
And then, and then I will also look at past to see what we changed. Because I don't think we
It should be in
changed.
board docs
I know,
also
I know,
from
but I
that
don't
meeting.
think we changed the 2-day notice thing. I think
Yeah.
that's always been in there, but I'll check.
Okay.
Okay, so no action on that. Any further comments or questions? Can we move on to the second public participation?
We can move on.
Ms. Gale? Nothing, thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the notification of our next meeting. The next monthly meeting of the Board of Education of Kent County will be held on Monday, January 8th, 2024, beginning at 5:30 PM. Open session will be immediately followed by the board members going into closed session. The open session will resume at 6:30 PM. The meeting will be located at the administrative building in the boardroom, this room, at 5608 Boundary Avenue, Rock Hall, Maryland, 21661. And moving on to the last item on the agenda is to adjourn. The administration is recommending approval to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to do so?
Before we adjourn, just a reminder, the next CAC meeting will be on January 22nd at 5:30 PM.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. McGee has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions? Not hearing any, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ms. Messick?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned at 8:40.